1 to 11. I'm going to imagine you ain't making many changes from a 5-0 win, Beard.
I've got one.
You've got one change from a team that won 5-0.
Yes, and I'm bringing Sammy Smodics in.
Why?
I think
I can guess why. Why?
He knows that team, and I think that Chuba he played okay, but I think just okay. I think we need to manage the game times between the two of them. They're both fighting for the same position, so get Sammy to run on, just absolutely run them ragged. I think he's due a goal, so he's going to get a goal, and then bring Chuba on for a bit more physicality towards the later ends of the game.
Okay, so you're dropping Akpom to the bench. You're bringing Sammy Smodics back in to face his old club, a place he knows very well, and a place he did very well. So well, in fact, he earned his move to us in a £9 million transfer a summer ago. Tux, you've heard Beard's rationale behind it. Do you agree with it? Are you making any changes? But before you do, just sit there a little bit longer because Dominic Dean has kindly gifted one Talking Town membership. Dominic, thank you very much. We really do appreciate
Legend.
it. One person is now lucky enough to come across to Discord, and ITFC Beard will help you and look after you over there. Right, Tux, the floor is yours.
I do agree with Beard's thought process, if I'm honest. I mean, I think it was a tough one for Akpom against Sheffield United. I think if you look at all the players that probably didn't play as well, maybe Akpom could be in with a shout for that. But I do like Beard's thought process about that. Obviously, he's played there before. He probably knows a little bit about the team. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got drafted in potentially. I think a lot of people will probably just go with the same team. I know there's lots of people that have kind of sort of said about Gelly potentially coming in on the right and stuff like that, because I think the jury's still out a little bit on McAteer. But for me, I didn't think McAteer was all that bad, really. I know he doesn't set the world alight but amongst the fan base, but for me, I thought he did all right. And yeah, I think I'd probably go with the same team, but we know what McKenna's like at this level, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of changes here and there, just to, sort of look at the team that Blackburn will put out. He might think a bit more tactically and sort of go man for man type stuff. But that's why Shimodics could come in potentially. So yeah.
I saw you shaking your head there at Egley possibly coming in. Beard, that's not a move you'd be making this Saturday. Remember the word town, all in caps, because we've partnered with Match Bingo to give you a deposit bonus. You can get 200% bonus, and while the deposit bonus is bonus cash, it can't be withdrawn, but the winnings can be. 200% bonus using the word town, all in caps. But remember, terms and conditions do apply. You must be 18 or over. Terms and conditions apply. Please, whatever you do, gamble responsibly. Over 18s only. Visit begambleaware.org for more information. Links to Match Bingo in the description, or scan the QR code on screen next to their logo to play now.
I think McAteer is getting a bit hard done, but I think because he's not this big glitz name like Igley's getting in, he's kind of like a victim of that, sort of like he isn't that big name that everyone else, but a bit like, Tux just said, he didn't really do much wrong. He was there, he did his job, he ran up and down, he was good. And I think Egley and everyone's calling for Nunes to be starting. I think they need still to be managed into the team. Kieran McKenna does historically take his time to embed these players in. So why would you just force them in and then ruin any opportunity they have to succeed by them not being fully up to our system? So take their time, embed them.
Yeah. Work them in slowly and build them up gradually, as McKenna sort of has done in the past.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, you agree with Shane's comment there, is that Akpom does need games. He needs time. And, ultimately all of these players need games and time to, get match fitness, but also have that sort of sharpness as well. But I feel like Akpom has been brought in to be a 10. And I feel like he's probably going to be McKenna's 10 until, something else happens or whatever else, loss of form, maybe whatever it might be. But, I think he's going to give Akpom a little bit more of a chance now. And yeah, I agree with Beard about McAteer. I mean, I think there was a few stray passes that he had against Sheffield United, but otherwise I thought, he got wide quite well, and, was always looking for a cross and stuff like that. And, for me, Gelly is a player that excites everyone. you know, based on what people have heard from him, what they've seen of him in certainly, you know, international football, young sort of international football. But yeah, it's a player who's still raw, Gov. You know, he's a player that needs time, needs to be bedded in, like Beard was saying. And for me, over time, I think you'll probably see his emergence similar probably to Amari when he first started here. Was that, if you remember, Amari wasn't really playing a lot of games. He was coming off the bench, and being bedded in really. And I think that's probably going to be the case for Agueli, where he might get the odd goal off the bench and people were starting, you know, crying out for him to start and stuff like that, much like they did with Amari. But you'd rather be in that position than start games and not make a real impact or have an effect on the game. When someone like McAteer, who is experienced at this level, has played in the Premier League, you know, he's you know, ultimately he's a new signing as well, so he's got to bed himself in. But I think I'd go with what the team was on Friday. There might be the odd change that McKenna might make, but if it is, it's probably what Beard's suggesting, which is probably Simodics coming in potentially.
Yeah, look, I'm really torn because obviously we've known McKenna long enough now to know that he can never quite leave it alone, and he likes to perhaps go by, you know, game by game or tactical by tactical, you know, whatever. Right? I'm also old school enough where you know, growing up, if you won 5-0, that team was the team. Next week, because that just won 5-0, and you don't, what ain't broke, you don't try and fix.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gov. I think it's one of them where back in the day, like, you know, if you're winning by that margin, you know, you play well, you keep the shirt. But we know that that's not modern day football anymore, and we also know that's not the way McKenna thinks a lot of the time. He's very tactical. He will look at teams individually and players individually and try and kind of match them up or see weaknesses in there that we can exploit. But yeah, I think a lot of fans would probably keep the same team, but as I say, I think you could expect perhaps one or two changes, and I don't think it'll be any more than that, but I think maybe one or two.
All right, we've got a question here from Dominic Dean. Question for the panel: when Burns is fit, does he come straight back in? Is he the future now that a lot of the old school have gone too? Very quickly, Beard, what do you think? What's your answer there to Dom?
That's a tricky one. I think it's a very tricky one. It depends on, you know, you're saying you don't want to tinker too much and stuff like that. But if our team is performing well, can you justify bringing Wes in? As good as, do we keep him in for nostalgia's sake because we know what he's done? But we've let, you know, people like Chaplin go, all right, all it being on a loan. But if it's nostalgia's sake alone, then we would have kept Chaplin and stuff like that.
Okay. I think you've got to remember the extent of the injury as well. It's an ACL, and that's not an easy injury to come back from. And I think he's going to need time to really get sharpness and fitness and stuff like that. So to really sort of try and chuck him in if he is deemed fit is probably slightly unfair. But then, you, like Beard says, you got to kind of look at it from where we are at that point when he comes back. You know, if he's coming back potentially in November or something, then, you know, McAteer might be playing out of his skin. Agueli might have been given chances there and stuff like that. So, you know, I suppose, you know, he's probably in the same boat as Ogbene, if I'm honest, where he just needs to play games, but ultimately he might not get that chance here, and he might have to go out on loan in January potentially. But we can only tell where we are by then, I suppose.
Yeah, Colin says Wes Burns, fantastic off the bench. Mabby, same team. Bring on Nunez and Egley if we need a goal from outside the box. If they're packing out the defence, yeah, as tempted as I am to play Nunez, as I say, growing up, 5-0 win, you'd always put out the same team, providing everyone was fit. And that's kind of, and I can't sit here every week and say we need players to step up and take hold of the shirt and then refuse to give it back. If off the back of a 5-0 win, and you want to sit there and discredit the opposition as much as you like, they still won 5-0. It wasn't a 1-0 victory, it was a 5-0 resounding victory. I then now can't sit here and say, oh, well, you know, I'd play Nunez because I want to see him, or play Egley because he's this fee or whatever.
What a fantastic problem to have for McKenna, because, you know, 2 or 3 weeks ago we were sitting there thinking that, you know, Matissa were and Kayust, and then not really a lot happening. I know you can play Taylor there, Humphreys, whatever it might be, but you know, a proper, you know, player that's played at this level, experienced, quality player, and it's a great problem to have. So, you know, Nunez will get his chance. You know,
absolutely.
Kayust is obviously a player at the moment that can't play 90 minutes, so, you know, it might be a case that they sort of chop and change potentially, but, you know, we'll see.
You've reached the end. Thank you so much for watching. Hit here to subscribe. It's totally free. And hit here for more Talking Town videos. I'll see you on the next one.